Imagine coming home to find strangers pacing across your deck, pointing at your windows, and talking about buyers. That's exactly what happened when my HOA invited a realtor to tour my grandfather's cabin, without my permission. They thought I'd roll over. Instead, I locked the gate and posted my own sign. I was knee-deep in sawdust at a construction site when my phone buzzed. At first, I ignored it, just another message, I thought. But then I saw the name, Dolores, my neighbor. She'd sent me a photo that made my blood run cold. In the picture, 3 strangers stood on my cabin's deck like they owned it. One man in a pressed suit was measuring the railing. A woman in designer heels scribbled notes on a clipboard. And in the driveway, a realtor in a sharp blazer gestured at my property with a wide smile, as though the deal was already done. I froze, coffee halfway to my lips. My family's cabin, our safe place, was being paraded around like a cheap listing. This wasn't some empty lot for sale. This was a cabin built by my grandfather's hands, a place where every nail told a story. And now, strangers were planning its future without me. The metallic taste of rage filled my mouth. My hands trembled as I stared at the photo again. They weren't just trespassing. They were invading my family's legacy. And if they thought I'd stand by while they priced out my history, they were about to learn otherwise. That cabin isn't just lumber and shingles. It's history. My grandfather, a veteran, bought the land decades ago with the little money he had saved. He built every wall, every beam, with calloused hands and stubborn pride. "This is our forever home," he'd say, hammer echoing through the woods. I grew up on those summers by the lake. The smell of pine sap stuck to our fingers as we stained the deck. The sound of loons calling across the water carried through the nights. My grandfather believed that when you build something with sweat and grit, nobody can take it away from you. Even after he passed, the cabin remained the anchor of our family. My daughter loves it there, her refuge whenever life gets loud. For me, it's the only place where the noise of construction sites and long workweeks fades into peace. So when I saw strangers treating it like an open house, I knew it wasn't just about property. This was about protecting the last piece of my grandfather still alive in these walls. They weren't selling land. They were stealing memories. And the worst part? The people behind it weren't outsiders. They were my own HOA. If you've never dealt with a homeowners association, let me paint you a picture. Ours is run by Veronica Ashworth, HOA president, self-appointed queen, and professional pain in the neck. She moved in 2 years ago, rolling up in a shiny BMW, and immediately declared the community needed upgrades. What that really meant was control, matching mailboxes, fines for lawns an inch too long, threatening letters about sheds not aesthetically compliant. She carried a clipboard like a sword and wielded it without hesitation. My first run-in with her was when she cited my grandfather's old workshop, calling it non-conforming. Never mind that it was solid, hand-built, and older than half the homes in the subdivision. She wanted it gone or rebuilt to match the community's vision. Translation, her vision. So when Dolores told me that Veronica had invited her realtor friend to tour my cabin, I wasn't even surprised. Furious, yes, but not surprised. This was Veronica's style. Intimidate, pressure, and push until people gave in. She thought if she paraded buyers around my land, I'd fold and sell cheap. What she didn't count on was that my family doesn't fold. Not to bullies. Not to anyone. By the time I raced over, the tour was still in progress. My boots crunched on the gravel as I pulled up. There they were, 3 strangers chatting casually about tearing down the old place and adding modern lakefront amenities. My jaw clenched. The realtor turned, all smiles. "Oh, you must be the owner. We're just assessing the property's potential." Potential? My grandfather's cabin wasn't potential. It was already perfect. And then Veronica strutted out from behind them, nails polished, lips curled in that smug smile. "Garrett," she purred. "We're just exploring community improvement options. You understand." No, I didn't understand. Not how she could walk onto land she didn't own. Not how she could let a realtor act like my property was on the market. And not how she thought she had the right to erase decades of history for a price tag. I wanted to shout, to drag every last one of them off my deck. But instead, I said only one thing low and steady. This cabin is not for sale. Not today, not ever. The realtor blinked, surprised. Veronica just smirked, as if I was too ignorant to realize I'd already lost. She had no idea what was coming. That night, I spread every deed and document I had across my kitchen table. The original survey lines. My grandfather's purchase agreement. Every scrap of proof that this land belonged to us, free and clear. And there it was, in black and white. The property had been mine long before the HOA even existed. Their rules didn't apply here. But it wasn't just about me. I started hearing stories from other neighbors. Mrs. Patterson fined for having too many roses. The Hendricks family penalized for parking their work truck in their own driveway. Veronica had been bullying everyone, not just me. Then came the kicker. I found a glossy marketing flyer on my porch the next day. My cabin was described as prime development land with tear-down potential. The realtor's logo stamped proudly on the corner. That wasn't an accident. It was a scheme. Veronica and her realtor friend were working together, trying to pressure me into selling so they could flip the property for a fortune. My blood boiled. They thought they could scare me. But what they didn't know was that I come from builders. And when you push a builder too far, he doesn't cave, he fights back. The next morning, I drove straight to the cabin. My truck rattled up the dirt road, dust trailing behind. I stepped out, breathing in the sharp scent of pine, and knew exactly what I had to do. First, I replaced the old chain on the gate with a brand new lock, the kind that clanged shut like a final warning. Next, I made my own sign, bright red letters on whiteboard, private property, not for sale. Trespassers will be prosecuted. I hammered it into the ground where no one could miss it. As I stood back, sweat dripping, I felt a surge of satisfaction. Let them try to walk in now. Word spread fast. By evening, Veronica herself showed up at the gate, heels clicking angrily on the gravel. "This is inappropriate," she snapped. "You can't just—" "Oh, but I can," I interrupted. "This is my land. And if you think you can sell it without me, you're in for a surprise." Her eyes narrowed, but for the first time, I saw something flicker behind them. Hesitation. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for war. At first, most neighbors stayed quiet. I could see them watching from porches, blinds twitching as they peeked out. Everyone knew Veronica's reputation. She fined, threatened, and intimidated anyone who stepped out of line. But slowly, whispers reached me. Dolores confessed Veronica had tried to bribe her into reporting violations on my property. The Morrisons admitted they'd been harassed into selling last year. The Hendricks family, tired of paying bogus fines, offered to back me up if things escalated. It was clear I wasn't the only target. Veronica was running the same playbook on everyone, pushing out longtime families and making room for her vision of the community. And though fear kept most people cautious, I could feel it, momentum shifting. They were waiting to see if I'd stand tall. Because if I could, maybe they could too. Veronica didn't waste time. The following week, I got a letter taped to my door. Bold letters screamed, "Notice of violation." According to her, my cabin was abandoned property and subject to daily fines unless I cooperated with community development. I laughed out loud. Abandoned? I spent every weekend here. My daughter's laughter still echoed off these walls. But the letter wasn't really about legality. It was intimidation. She wanted me rattled, worn down, easier to push. Instead, it steeled me. I made copies of every letter, photographed every trespass, and started a file. I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to expose her. Because the truth about bullies? They thrive in shadows. And the one thing they fear most is daylight. 2 weeks later, the community meeting buzzed with tension. Folding chairs filled the hall, neighbors shifting nervously, waiting to hear what would happen. Veronica sat at the front, chin high, papers stacked like weapons. When my turn came, I stood holding up the deed. "This cabin has been in my family longer than this HOA has even existed," I said, voice steady. Then I displayed copies of the Realtor's flyer, Veronica's violation letters, and photos of strangers trespassing. Gasps rippled through the room. Murmurs grew louder. For once, the fear wasn't directed at me. It was turning on her. And as I laid out the proof, one sentence sealed it. This is not community improvement. This is harassment. And it ends today. Neighbors who'd been silent for years started clapping. And just like that, Veronica's iron grip cracked. Veronica never recovered from that night. The realtor vanished, her threats stopped, and the HOA board quickly distanced themselves. My cabin remained standing, untouched, stronger than ever. But more than saving my property, I'd sparked something bigger. Neighbors who once felt powerless began questioning, pushing back, standing together. And as I locked the gate one last time that evening, the sun dipping golden over the lake, I smiled. My grandfather was right, what you build with sweat, nobody can take from you. Bullies count on silence. But sometimes the loudest answer is a locked gate and a hand-painted sign.